What's going on, Sooner Nation? We're back today because the Oklahoma Sooners got a prediction in their favor for a what we would consider a flip for a defensive lineman. And we got to talk about it. We got to discuss it because flip season is here, and the Oklahoma Sooners are going to be one of the hot teams here in the 2026 recruiting cycle, looking to flip big time targets from other schools. So before we dive into it, before we discuss it, as always, I want to hear from y'all. So join the discussion, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button so that you can constantly be brought up to speed with Oklahoma recruiting news, Oklahoma football team news, and all of that. I'm actually on vacation, so this definitely is not the normal background, but we only got like a day left. So probably Sunday, you guys will see some new, fresh videos at the house with all of the wonderful stuff in the background. And we'll be back to normal with better audio and video and everything else. But the Oklahoma Sooners, they got some great news from Steve Wiltfong over at On3 that a defensive lineman that decommitted from Florida State University is now potentially trending to Oklahoma. And this probably shouldn't be a shock to most because before Florida State really picked up a lot of momentum in this recruitment, it felt like at the time Oklahoma was the leader. It felt like Oklahoma was going to land his commitment. But it felt like Oklahoma kind of backed off at the time because when you looked at what you would want a defensive lineman to be at terms of size wise, he didn't really fit the mold. And so it kind of felt like at the time Oklahoma backed off. But Oklahoma has definitely circled back around now, and I think have gained momentum enough to go out there and land his commitment. And we're going to be talking about James Carrington. Now, right now, he's a 4-star with ESPN, I think a 3-star with 247 and On3. I do think it's important for people to note. If I remember correctly, he was in the 27 cycle and was a 5-star and reclassified over. And we always know how reclassification works, right? If you're a 5-star in one class, you reclassify over. Generally, you don't carry that 5-star over because you're behind a year of some of those other kids. And so you look at size, abilities, things like that. Some of these insiders and analysts, they don't carry that does not carry the same weight when you try to go forward a year basically, instead of staying kind of where you're at. So James Carrington definitely has all of the possibilities to be a 5-star when he's on campus. But when you look at the recruiting rankings, probably going to be more at the end of the year in a 4-star mix. But I'll say this. I got a chance to catch up with James yesterday after the decommitment news came through, after I got back from the beach. And he's now up to 6'3", 270, which you can definitely understand. This is now why Oklahoma's circling back around. He's put in the work that he needs to be able to go out there and, have Oklahoma want him as a part of this class and, want to be able to get him on campus now, which is great. This is somebody that I've been rooting for in the 26 class. And it's somebody that, we've had here on the podcast. Really great kid. I'm really excited about these opportunities he's going to have. So like I said, 6'3", 270 right now at Creed Lutheran High School out of Irvine, California. But he's been around the pond a little bit. He was actually just not too long ago out at Bishop Gorman, which has kind of been a hotbed for Oklahoma and looking at those kind of recruits. So right now, the number 530th player in the country. But, when you go look at the depth now that Oklahoma potentially is going to have in this class with defensive linemen, if you go out there and you land a T-Ron Richardson along with James Carrington and Brian Harris, this has been a pretty solid defensive line class. Now, I will say, I still think if these are the three you take, you probably still want to go out there and either get a really elite defensive lineman that could probably come into play next year, or go out there and get you a starter to the portal, which is probably where Oklahoma will lean, is looking at the portal. But looking at what Greg Biggins, the national recruiting analyst, had to say about James Carrington, well-built frame. I'm going to say now 6'3", 270. He had 6'2", 255 at the time written. So we're going to say 6'3", 270 with close to an 80-inch wingspan. Naturally a strong kid with a quick first step and can beat an opposing lineman off the snap. You actually see that a lot in his film and in his huddle. If you go watch it, I think he definitely portrays that pretty well in that film. So we'll talk more about this if he ends up committing. We'll talk about this. I would say if you're an Oklahoma fan, if you were looking for James Carrington to potentially commit, I would say, maybe look towards the weekend, right? So keep that in mind. That I'm keep towards the weekend if you potentially want to see something. But he's also a wrestler, so a dual sport athlete, which I think is extremely important for the staff. They want guys that are multi-sport athletes, can do multiple skills. They like those athletic kids. In 23, when at starting his sophomore season at St. Francis Academy before transferring to Rabun Gap, I believe it's Naoti. Total 33 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 38 QB hurries, 15 sacks, 2 forced fumbles in 9 games. Which again, you guys know my drill. When we're looking at defensive line stats, I love QB hurry because it just tells you how many times that defensive lineman is getting into the backfield, causing pressure, causing the quarterback to get out of the pocket, make them uncomfortable, things like that. So this could go into Oklahoma's favor, and if it does, this is a great pickup for Oklahoma. I would hesitate for a lot of people to look at this as just a 3-star commit. I don't think you should look at it that way. James Carrington is very talented. I think, he's not going to be a guy that I think comes in and plays right away, but in 2 to 3 years, I think you could probably see him. I think somebody put it to me like this the other day, is a Grayson Halton type of player. So, if you're looking at a 3 to 4 year player and, in 2 to 3 years, he's becoming really good rotational minutes and becomes into what Grayson Halton is, that's huge. So great news there. Keep your eyes peeled. That would definitely help Oklahoma out. Obviously, Braden Allen, another flip target for Oklahoma, the 6'1", 170-pound wide receiver out of Lafayette, Louisiana, currently committed to Tulane. It sounds like he's going to be visiting during the season. I've reached out trying to get that date narrowed down, figured out when he's showing up on campus. I don't know if he has that completely 100% nailed down, but it's Oklahoma, Colorado, Tulane, Ole Miss, all going after his services. You've got, actually, it looks like 247 has a visit set in there for September 20th, Colorado, September 27th. So, we'll have to keep an eye out for all 4 of those schools. Obviously, Tulane's going to be trying to keep his commitment, but when you go look at the film, you see the speed, you see him being able to leverage his frame for those 50-50 balls. Braden Allen would be a phenomenal addition if Oklahoma can go out there and get him. Other wide receivers, though, because I think Oklahoma needs to take 3 in this class, and then maybe we'll get you 1 or 2 starters out of the portal, or 1 or 2 guys that can really play for you, because you're going to have to replace guys just through natural attrition, and then obviously you're going to have some guys naturally just go hit the portal. I would go look at some of the guys that Oklahoma had really been in on the recruiting trail for teams that might be on the hot seat. So, Baylor, you look at Dave Aranda. If he's on the hot seat, Jordan Clay, Aljor Miles, like, does things kind of go awry with SMU in their second year in the ACC? Can Oklahoma try to go out there and flip him? Or maybe even circling back up on a guy like Jaden Warren, who we really hadn't talked about, right? Does Houston have another really bad year? And can Oklahoma go out there and convince a guy like Jaden Warren to jump out of the boat with Houston after Oklahoma's won maybe like 8 or 9 games at that point and come join the Oklahoma Sooners 2026 class? All that remains to be seen, but of course, we'll keep you guys up to date with everything that's going on, especially now that Oklahomas are pretty much going to be buyers in the flip market. I would expect Oklahoma to probably want to take 4 to 5 more guys at least in the flip market, and we can see some elite people come up on board. I know that they're going to go after some guys that are committed teams on the West Coast. They're going to go to teams committed here in the SEC. Oklahoma is going to be definitely some buyers, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled there. So jump in the comments below, join the discussion. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that like and hit that subscribe button.